The last person anyone expected to save Daniel Carter's company was the woman he had removed from the board himself. 3 years earlier, Daniel had stood in front of the entire executive team and told everyone that his ex-wife, Emily, no longer belonged in the room. He said the company needed serious investors, serious decisions, and serious leadership. Emily had quietly packed her files, looked at the people who once trusted her, and walked out without arguing. What Daniel did not know was that the company only survived those 3 years because Emily had never truly left. She had been the anonymous investor keeping the business alive from the shadows. And by the time Daniel discovered the truth, he had already destroyed the one relationship that had been protecting everything he cared about. Daniel Carter had built Carter Technology from a small repair shop into a respected software company. He had started it with an old laptop, borrowed money, and a belief that he could create something bigger than himself. But success had changed him. When the company began growing, Daniel started measuring everything by results. Every meeting became about numbers. Every conversation became about deadlines. He believed pressure created excellence. Emily had been different. She was the person who noticed when employees were struggling. She remembered birthdays, listened to new ideas, and believed a company was not only built from products but from people. When Daniel and Emily first met, they balanced each other. Daniel pushed forward. Emily reminded him why he was moving. But after years of building the company, their marriage began falling apart. Daniel was always working. Even when he was home, his mind was somewhere else. Emily had stopped asking him to put the phone down because she already knew the answer. One night, after waiting 2 hours for a dinner they planned for their anniversary, Emily had quietly placed the food in the refrigerator. Daniel arrived home near midnight. "I'm sorry," he said while looking at his laptop screen. "The investors needed me." Emily looked at him for a moment. "Daniel, do you know what day it is?" He froze. The silence answered before he did. That night was not the reason they separated. But it was the night Emily realized she had been fighting for a marriage that only one person was trying to save. Months later they divorced. There was no dramatic fight. No public anger. Just two people who had become strangers while standing in the same room. After the divorce, Daniel buried himself deeper into work. He convinced himself that losing Emily was simply another sacrifice required to succeed. Then the company started struggling. A major competitor released a similar product. Several clients left. The investors who once praised Daniel began questioning his decisions. The board became nervous. They wanted new leadership. Daniel refused to believe he was the problem. Instead, he searched for someone to blame. That was when Emily returned to the company. Not as his wife. Not even as someone asking for forgiveness. She returned as a board member after a private investment group purchased a large percentage of the company. Daniel had no idea Emily was connected to the group. When she entered the boardroom for the first time in years, everyone became quiet. Daniel looked up from his documents. "Emily." She nodded. "Hello, Daniel." He looked around the room. "This is a surprise." "I'm sure it is." Her calm response bothered him more than anger would have. During the meeting, Emily asked simple questions about declining customer trust, employee turnover, and product problems. Daniel felt attacked. He believed she was trying to embarrass him in front of the board. After the meeting, he stopped her near the elevator. "You came back here to judge me?" Emily looked confused. "No. I came back because the company needed help. The company needed investors. Not someone who walked away." Her expression changed slightly. "I didn't walk away from the company." Daniel laughed quietly. "You left." Emily looked at him, but she did not argue. The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside. Sometimes leaving a room is the only way someone can protect what is still inside it. The doors closed before Daniel could respond. Over the next few weeks, Emily began making changes. She pushed Daniel to speak with employees instead of only reading reports. She questioned decisions that seemed profitable but damaged long-term trust. Daniel hated admitting it, but some of her ideas worked. The company slowly stabilized. Employees became more confident. Customers began returning. For the first time in months, the company had hope. But Daniel refused to give Emily credit. He convinced himself that anyone could have made those decisions. Then came the first major revelation. During a financial review, Daniel discovered something strange. The anonymous investment group that had saved the company had purchased shares months before anyone knew there was a crisis. He asked the financial director for details. Who approved this investment? The director hesitated. Emily. Daniel stared at him. What do you mean, Emily? She was the main investor. Daniel felt the room become silent. The woman he believed had abandoned his company had been the reason it survived. He searched through old documents and found something that shocked him even more. Emily had sold the apartment they once owned together to fund the investment. She had used money from the life they built to protect the company he loved more than anything. Daniel found her sitting alone in the company cafeteria that evening. For several seconds he just stood there. Emily looked up. What happened? Daniel placed the documents on the table. Why didn't you tell me? Emily looked down. Would you have listened? Daniel had no answer. Because he knew the truth. 3 years earlier he would have called it interference. He would have believed she was trying to control his company. Emily continued eating. I knew you would fight me. You always fought anything that made you feel weak. Daniel sat across from her. You sold our apartment. Yes. Why? Emily looked at him. Because people worked here. Families depended on this place. I couldn't watch something we built disappear because we were too proud to admit it needed help. Daniel lowered his eyes. For the first time in years he saw the cost of his choices. But understanding the truth did not repair the damage. The next board meeting changed everything. A group of investors proposed removing Daniel as CEO. They believed he was too emotional, too stubborn, and too attached to the past. Daniel expected Emily to support them. Instead, she defended him. He made mistakes, she said. But removing him without giving him a chance to change is another mistake. The board was surprised. Daniel was surprised too. After the meeting, he asked her why she protected him. Emily answered honestly. Because I know who he was before he forgot. Those words stayed with him. For the first time, Daniel stopped trying to prove he was right. He started trying to become better. He apologized to employees he had ignored. He listened during meetings. He asked questions instead of giving orders. But change came with a cost. A few months later, the company discovered a serious security problem in their newest software update. Customers lost trust again. The media blamed Daniel. The board demanded someone take responsibility. Daniel knew what would happen. If he resigned, the company might survive. If he stayed, everyone might suffer because of his mistake. At home that night, Daniel sat alone surrounded by old company files. Emily found him there after dropping off documents. You haven't slept. He looked exhausted. I ruined everything again. Emily sat across from him. No. You made a mistake. The difference is people lose their jobs because of my mistakes. She was quiet. Years earlier, she would have tried to comfort him immediately. But now she understood that real support did not always mean removing pain. Then fix it, she said. Daniel looked at her. How? Stop trying to protect your image. Protect the people who trusted you. The next morning, Daniel held a public meeting. He did not blame the software team. He did not blame competitors. He admitted the company had failed to properly test the update. He announced that he would personally oversee the correction process, and that every affected customer would receive support. Many expected the company to collapse. Instead, something unexpected happened. Customers appreciated the honesty. Employees worked harder because they finally believed their leader cared more about people than pride. The company recovered. But Daniel knew there was still one thing he had to face. Emily, the woman who saved his company, had never asked for recognition. She had never used her position to hurt him. She had simply helped from a distance because she still cared about the people involved. One evening, Daniel found Emily preparing to leave the office. You're leaving. She smiled slightly. My work here is finished. Daniel looked at her. Are you leaving because of me? Emily paused. No. Then why? She closed her laptop. Because this company doesn't need me to save it anymore. Daniel struggled to find the right words. I spent years thinking you left because you didn't care. Emily looked at him. I left because I cared too much. The silence between them was different this time. Not cold. Not angry. Just honest. Daniel took a breath. I don't expect things to go back to how they were. Emily nodded. Good. He looked surprised. She continued. Because they shouldn't. For the first time, Daniel smiled. She was right. The old version of their relationship had ended long ago. If anything existed between them again, it had to be something new. Over the following months, they slowly rebuilt their friendship. There were no promises. No sudden reunion. No pretending the past never happened. They started with conversations. Then coffee. Then moments where they laughed about things they had forgotten. Daniel learned that love was not proven by big speeches or expensive gifts. Emily learned that people could change when they finally stopped defending who they used to be. A year later, the company celebrated its strongest year ever. During the celebration, Daniel stood on stage in front of hundreds of employees. Everyone expected him to talk about growth, profits, and success. Instead, he thanked the people who helped him see what he could not see himself. Then he stepped down from the stage and handed Emily a small envelope. Inside was a photograph. It was from the company's first year. Daniel and Emily were standing outside the old repair shop, covered in paint and laughing. On the back, Daniel had written one sentence. I finally understood what I was trying to build. Emily looked at him. What changed? Daniel smiled. I thought I was building a company. I didn't realize I was building a place where people believed they belonged. Emily held the photograph carefully. They did not know what the future would bring. But this time they were not trying to return to the past. They were choosing to move forward. The woman Daniel once removed from the board had become the person who helped him find his way back. And the company he almost lost became the place where he finally learned what was worth protecting.